Hello everyone and welcome. I'm the Geek Apprentice and today we have a wonderful video that a lot of you have been asking for since our last video on the top 5 worst Zelda theories, where we used facts, interviews from Miyamoto, Aonuma, and others at Nintendo who created the games to debunk and explain exactly why they're wrong and just not credible. In today's video, we'll be doing the same except in favor of certain theories. Using factual information and lore from the actual games, announcements from Nintendo, and interviews with Aonuma, Miyamoto, and others who work on the games. Before we begin, comment below and let us know your favorite or least favorite Zelda theory and see if it makes the list. If it doesn't, let us know and we might give you a shout out when we make our part 2 of this video counting down 5 more of the best Zelda theories. We also have a Discord, Twitter, and official Facebook where you can be sure to send us your theory or idea and guarantee that we will see it and discuss it with you. Links to all of that will be in the description. Number 1. The Breath of the Wild timeline placement is a dragon break. Made popular by the Zelda podcast, the 𝐓𝐼𝐧𝐬𝐭𝐭𝐞𝐫, co-host Daniel or Capt Bergerson made a video, the first video in fact, on YouTube talking about the idea. At the moment, this is probably one of the most popular Zelda theories going around. With Breath of the Wild 2 likely going to give us even more clues, it's very possible it will only continue to get even more popular and have even more fans debating. As we all know, Nintendo has officially stated that Breath of the Wild takes place at the end of all 3 timelines, announcing it in multiple interviews and updating their official timeline for every fan to see. It can no longer be debated if Breath of the Wild takes place before Skyward Sword, directly after Wind Waker, or anywhere else on the timeline for that matter. The only debate that can happen now is which timeline it takes place after. Most fans believe, and even Nintendo themselves have hinted that it takes place in a combined timeline. We actually have a lot of facts and information that come directly from Aonuma that helps confirm this. How does a timeline combine? Well, it has officially done this several times already. In Aonuma's own words, it has happened in Majora's Mask, Skyward Sword, and other games. He even said Breath of the Wild took a lot of major influence from Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls series, which itself has a very similar timeline or Dragon Break convergence. So for the people that say Nintendo would never do such a thing, it's in their own words that it already has happened multiple times in the Zelda series. If you want to see a video going way more in depth explaining absolutely everything, please check out the video linked in the description and the top pinned comment. Number 2. Link from Ocarina of Time married Malon. It is 100% confirmed by the creators of the game, Aonuma and Miyamoto, as well as the game itself, that the Link in Twilight Princess is the direct descendant of Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And the hero shade in Twilight Princess is the hero of time. This leaves us with one question: who did Link marry and have a family with? Well, the hero of time had 3 potential wives: Princess Zelda, Princess Ruto, and Malon. Considering Link in Twilight Princess isn't half or part Zora, I would say that no, it wasn't Princess Ruto. Another thing, Link in Twilight Princess does not even begin the game in Hyrule Castle. In fact, he has never even seen the princess, the castle, or seemingly been too far outside of Ordon Village. Also, he does grow up as a ranch hand, a trait likely passed down from his grandparents and great-grandparents and so on. He lives in the same type of house as Link from Ocarina of Time. So, from what we factually know from Twilight Princess, this points towards Malon. But what does Ocarina of Time tell us about Link and Malon? Well, her father is 100% into the idea. All of the signs point to Link and Malon creating a family. As much as Link and Zelda shippers would love for their way to happen, it just doesn't seem to be the case in this situation. Now imagine if Link from Twilight Princess had red hair like his ancestor Malon.
Demise's origins and Lorule. This is probably the most out there and crazy theory, but one of our all-time favorites that connects so many things. Demise connecting to Lorule? Yes, I know this is all insane. How could that even be possible? This theory begins with the single most important thing from A Link Between Worlds, the upside down Triforce, or Lorule's version of the Triforce. It is featured on the game's logo, and the story completely revolves around it. Where else is this upside-down Triforce seen? On Demise's sword. Just as the Master Sword, which holds the spirit of 𝐵, has the Hylian Triforce, Demise's sword, which holds the spirit of Girahim, has the upside-down Triforce. Lorule is meant to be the opposite of Hyrule, yet directly connected and tied to it. This is also meant to be reinforced by the name of the kingdom. They even have interviews from throughout the years where they mention they will often get ideas and concepts while working on one game and implement those concepts into another. This quote becomes especially interesting when you remember all of the games were being developed at the same time. Skyward Sword beginning pre-production while Twilight Princess was being wrapped up in 2006 and releasing in 2011. A Link Between Worlds beginning development around 2009 when Spirit Tracks was wrapping up and releasing in 2013. There was a brief period of overlap. A Link Between Worlds and Skyward Sword shared around 3 years of development time from 2009 to 2011. The only thing we know about Demise's origins is that he comes to Hyrule through a crack or a fissure in the earth. It just so happens that A Link Between Worlds, a game that began development while Skyward Sword was halfway finished, has a new land called Lorule, which is accessed in the exact same way as described in Demise's backstory, through a crack or a fissure in the earth. Oh, and it just so happens that this Lorule, where Demise could come from, worships the same upside-down Triforce found engraved on his sword. Demise is meant to be the exact opposite of what Hylia represents. Even the swords that Hylia and Demise create just happen to have spirits inside them that are made to serve their masters. It all just makes sense. Even in Lorule, we can see areas showing the upside-down Triforce. Though we do go more in depth in the video found in the description and top pinned comment, but there is so much more here that really makes you think.
Secret Sheikah and Twilight Princess. For the first time in the franchise's history, Breath of the Wild gave us dozens of, if not hundreds of different Sheikah members, as opposed to the usual one per game. We had almost 150 different ancient Sheikah monks found within the shrines. We also had several villages and tribes that were filled with Sheikah members, and the entire game basically focused around Sheikah tech. So it's understandable for new players to not really look at them in the same way that older fans do. The Sheikah are actually one of the most mysterious races found throughout the Zelda series. Typically they are described as protectors of the royal family, and are known to possess some kind of magic. The most notable Sheikah members throughout the games would be the different versions of 𝐴MPA, or in Twilight Princess, 𝐴MPAs. This theory proposes the idea that secret Sheikah exist within Twilight Princess, most notably Fenati, Agatha, and Telma. First and foremost, Fenati does actually possess magic. Not to mention, she has a giant Sheikah symbol on her forehead, similar to a lot of other Sheikah members. Her name is also made up of the first letters of each of the 3 goddesses. And finally, the 3 jewels under her eyes are thought to represent the 3 goddesses. 2 other characters also have the same jewels under their eyes, and each also play an important role in the game. Agatha, the Bug Lady, which we also have a top 5 theories video based entirely on her. And finally, Telma, who actually does go out of her way to protect the royal family, the job in which the Sheikah are actually entitled to do. It is she who rallies together the small army of people who are each responsible for key factors of saving Hyrule. During the development process of Twilight Princess, the lost city with 𝐴MPAs didn't even exist. It wasn't until they created the shooting minigame that they decided to build the area as a way to literally force the player to play the minigame. So it's possible at one point these 3 other Sheikah were meant to have a bigger role in the game before it was given to 𝐴MPAs. Number 5. Gerudo Fate and the Arbiter's Grounds. Another theory bringing together Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time, even making an appearance in Breath of the Wild, This one is another theory that is almost all but confirmed. A few temples and dungeons reappear from Ocarina of Time to Twilight Princess, with a lot of similarities. The Water Temple returns in a similar location, the Temple of Time in a different area, but looking incredibly similar. In Twilight Princess, we are told of a war, where the Hylians defeated Ganondorf and his followers, which mostly consisted of the Gerudo at this time in the history of Hyrule. In one of the more important cutscenes of Twilight Princess, we see the sages on top of the Arbiter's grounds sealing Ganondorf in the Twilight Realm after a failed attempt at an execution, which actually leads to the death of the Zora, or Water Sage. Inside the Arbiter's grounds, there are Gerudo text found all over, strengthening and implying that it was built or created by the Gerudo. Most of the enemies found inside are Gibdos, Stalfos, Stallchilds, Pose, and other enemies that could be the remains of the prisoners and possibly even the guards. This is completely different than who we find on the outside as enemies, which are Bulblins and members of the demon tribe, who worship the demon king Ganon, whereas the enemies on the inside are mostly human and not from the demon world. The name itself, Arbiter's Grounds. Arbiter is a synonym for the word judge or mediator. The game shows us that the judges are actually the sages, who we see putting Ganondorf on trial. So in this case, the arbiters are the sages. So if you break down the etymology, you could call this dungeon the Sage's Grounds. We have a quote from Aru. The Gerudo Desert once held a prison built to hold the worst criminals this land has ever known. The criminals who were sentenced to death were sent directly to the underworld by a cursed mirror that was kept in the prison. Now that prison is condemned, and even the road leading to the desert is impassable. Here's a quote from Zelda Encyclopedia. The era of Twilight Princess, where the Gerudo have left the kingdom of Hyrule after losing their leader Ganondorf, within the desert now stands an execution's ground, governed by the kingdom. Inside stands a statue wrapped in a snake as well as Gerudo riding. The grounds are connected to the Spirit Temple. While a lot of the Gerudo were forced away to a different part of the desert, the games tell us of a war. We can see the aftermath of the Hylians conquering the Gerudo with everything we see in the Gerudo Desert. While we do know a lot of the Gerudo were forced out, it would be reasonable to say that Ganondorf did have a certain percentage of Gerudo who either would have remained loyal on their own or through brainwashing by Twinrova. Remember, in the child timeline, Twinrova, 𝐴𝐭𝐿 and 𝐘𝐽, who we are just going to refer to as the sisters from now on because I don't want to keep mispronouncing names of characters who we don't have voice acting in the game, so we have no actual correct pronunciation for them. But if you know it, please let me know in the comments below. So let's just go with these sisters. Remember, in the child timeline, Twinrova, or the sisters, are still alive. Link only defeats them in the future. We already see evidence of the sisters doing this very thing to Nabooru at the end of the child's timelines portion of the Spirit Temple. Before we even see this cutscene of them brainwashing Nabooru, who remember is a Gerudo who wanted to go against Ganondorf, Link already has to fight and defeat an Iron Knuckle, who we also have evidence to confirm Iron Knuckles are mostly just other brainwashed Gerudo. When zooming in on the character models, we can see inside is the face of a Gerudo. Taking all of this in, the Gerudo who may have kept their loyalty to Ganondorf, including the sisters, as well as who knows how many other brainwashed Gerudo, could have all been imprisoned in the Arbiter's Grounds. The Spirit Temple, before it even became a prison known as the Arbiter's Grounds, ironically, was already being used as a prison, as the sisters were imprisoning their own Gerudo, as we seen with Nabooru and the unnamed Gerudo, who was defeated as an Iron Knuckle in the child timeline. We can even see signs of this inside the dungeons as well. With a lot of returning temples and areas, a lot of people expected the Spirit Temple to also return. In its place, we find the Arbiter's Grounds. With what we know from facts directly from the game, we can come to the conclusion that during the war, the army of Hyrule and the sages themselves converted the Gerudo Holy Temple into their own prison. This in itself is a bit of irony, Ganondorf did this exact thing before to the different races of Hyrule. In one case, he literally kidnapped all of the Gorons and imprisoned them inside their very own fire temple, where they would either starve to death in their cages or wait to be fed to the resurrected fire-breathing dragon, 𝐓𝐽𝐽. Ganondorf also converted a lot of other areas and temples into places of torture and danger. So is the irony evil or deserved in this case, with the Hylians doing the same to Ganondorf and his army? This is also backed up due to Arbiter's Grounds appearing in Breath of the Wild, but no sign of the Spirit Temple or any other similar areas in the game. Only the ruins of the Arbiter's Grounds. This also implies that the Twilight race are in some way related to the Gerudo, as the Gerudo could have also been sent to the Twilight Realm for imprisonment.
Hey everyone, it's me again, 𝐼𝐧𝐬𝐢. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the �GameOverJessie channel, please consider purchasing a �GameOverJessie t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/�GameOverJessie, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/�GameOverJessie, and much, much more.